The date is Friday, September 17th, and you're listening to Entertain This, a thought-provoking podcast encapsulating all things entertainment. In this episode, we're throwing it back to the turn of the millennium with one of the most influential first-person shooter games to hit the market, Halo Combat Evolved. So awake from your cryosleep and listen along as we remember how Spartan-117 fights the Covenant in space. And enjoy!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite show on the internet, encapsulating all things entertainment. It's Entertain This.
It's in the game. Sorry. It's
What?
Entertain This.
Oh, okay. Whew.
ET
was off script.
Podcast. It's in the game.
E.T.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, I'm Alex.
Hi, I'm Michael.
Hey, I'm Nick.
Guys, I didn't plan anything for this one.
Cool.
It's Michael's week. Here's something. This is episode 80, guys. Can we just live in our
Whoa.
existentialism for a little bit? Just the fact that we've done 80 hours worth of content, probably over 80. Yeah, there were definitely some like 2 or 3 hour episodes in there. So
Yeah, 80 hours minimum.
80 hours
That's
minimum
insane.
of us talking to each other, and we are still growing younger every day. Us, our ever glowing youth continues to shine upon those who listen to our podcast, because everyone knows that if you listen to our podcast, it'll help you live forever. So we have that
Factually
going for
inaccurate,
us.
but 80 is a big number, so...
I'm sorry, you're not the fact checker, Nick. So
Play the intro.
no, it's okay. No, it's okay. She doesn't need to come on to tell me that I'm factually inaccurate about my claims that we grant eternal youth to our listeners. But it's Michael's episode, and that cold opening was confusing enough. So let's send it over to Michael, who's got a topic for us this week.
Whoa, hi,
the
it's
topic?
me. Whoa. Hey, guys. How are you?
Hey, what's up? What's up,
Hey,
you gorgeous man?
Hello. So I was combing through the Entertain This archives, trying to come up with a topic because
All 80 of them.
I was having a rough time trying to figure out what to talk about. And it came to my attention that we have not talked about something that I'm flabbergasted that we have not mentioned this. We've probably mentioned it, never actually talked about it as the main subject.
That's probably
And
true.
It's perfect because we're on episode 80, and 80 is actually made up of two of these standing one on top of each other.
Circles?
We're gonna be talking about Halo.
Wow.
Two little
Whoa.
Halos
That-
standing on top of each other.
that-
And then there's another one right next
It's a
to it.
It's a conspiracy.
There's three
Whoa.
circles, three in the Halo, and I don't know if
Yeah.
there's, Halo 3, that's the first game I played, so there you go. Jumping off point right there.
Yeah, there you go.
I
No,
have
but
some
this
very
week-
fond memories of Halo.
Oh, yeah.
No, so this week we're actually just going to be talking about the first one, the one that sets the stage for all the others, Halo Combat Evolved. Yeah.
I know
so,
nothing.
so wait, so you've never played Halo Combat Evolved?
No, I was one of those people that picked up the game when everyone else was playing it in 2007 with Halo 3. Not knowing
Okay.
anything about it. It's like, oh, it's sci-fi, you shoot aliens. I was like, great, sign me up. I want more of that.
I mean, to be fair, that's like literally the first one too. So
Wow.
yeah. Alex, what about you? Did you ever play the initial Halo?
Yeah, I played Halo 1 all the way through on the original Xbox.
Nice.
The one that booted up and looked like Nickelodeon splat gack all over the screen every time that you turned it on. It was a lot of green
Oh.
slime.
That might have been
That was-
360.
right.
That was their
Yeah.
aesthetic back then, was green
Yep.
slime.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
I don't think it was slime, but it was definitely like everything.
Liquid.
Never like there was nothing that wasn't a shade of that particular neon green.
The idea was that there was some sort of a fluorescent nuclear goo that ran through the Xbox and lit up the X in Xbox. And that's like the big Xbox symbolage. Like Xbox One was that picture of the X that's like glowing from the inside. And that's
Right.
because it was full of goo.
And
And then, if I remember correctly, the settings menu for the Xbox was like a bunch of pipes and like pipe systems that like piped the goo. It was a lot of goo back then. A lot of goo in that time.
Yeah, the early 2000s and late 90s very much had a very uncomfortable amount of goo just in pop culture.
Just too much fluorescent stuff.
You know what? They were doing better back then than we're doing now. Maybe we need to get the goo
fair.
back.
Yeah, bring back the goo.
Hashtag goo back. Get my goo back.
Give me the goo.
Anyways, I was holding up a case of the Halo 3.
Yeah, you got it right there.
We got it right here for the visual people. It says do not sell before 9/25/07 on the top here. So
so you got like the copy that like came out at launch.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, those only exist on the boxes that they sent out before release day.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some ASMR. It's
So-
not working. But anyways, this is the first Halo game that I ever owned. So
let's talk for a second about the sort of time period that we're talking here. We're talking the original Halo game came out around the same time as the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube. And we could do a debate this on console wars, but we won't.
not yet.
But at the time, I was a PlayStation 2 guy, and it really didn't matter. Like back then, your preference was solely down to like which you preferred, because it wasn't like, well, all my friends are playing on the Xbox, because there wasn't really any form of online multiplayer.
No.
And if you did have online multiplayer, which later on they kind of did, it was LAN. So like it got piped through your phone cables and shit. Like that's how you did it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the Xbox was the first one to actually have any sort of like expansion beyond like local 4-person multiplayer.
Yeah.
And Halo was the first. So Halo was a release title for the original Xbox. And it was the game that was meant to sell the Xbox. It took advantage of every single system that came with it. So like it pioneered the whole like local LAN parties of like having up to 16 people playing at once. It was the first like FPS to introduce like controls with two little thumbsticks, 2 little analog sticks.
Really?
Yeah.
The
so there
modern
were
day
ones
like
that,
Call of Duty controls.
yeah. So one of the most important factors, we'll just dive right into this. Like one of the most important factors that like Halo Combat Evolved had on the entire landscape of gaming as a whole is the baseline of good, comfortable twin stick FPS games. It was like, no, we can basically accredit like any sort of game that has comfortable controls that we can just hop into and use right away. We can attribute that to Halo because it pioneered the way. Like, because if we think about like what other console FPS games came before Halo, we're looking at like basically GoldenEye 64.
Doom.
Doom was only on the PC at the time. Yeah.
Oh, really?
PC.
I thought Doom made it to NES.
No. The NES couldn't run it.
I'd like to call in the fact checker on this one to see what the earliest console that ran Doom was. But we can get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Like, Doom had what we might call WASD controls nowadays.
WASD.
Like, WASD. I call it WASD. It's quicker. But yeah, I mean, that's all. I can't think of a game that was first-person shooter and on a console that came out before like 2000-ish. And part of that might just because, consoles before that time period didn't have analog sticks. So
well, yeah. So there were
That's true.
there were a few that came out on the Nintendo 64, but that only had the one. You had to kind of combine the controls with the like the single center analog stick with the right C controls with the 4 yellow buttons.
What were they thinking?
And then you had to like aim by holding like the Z button on the bottom and then use the analog stick, but you couldn't move at the same time. None of it really worked super well. Even after like GoldenEye 64, there was another game called Perfect Dark that had a lot of the same stuff that GoldenEye 64 had, but it was kind of like a next logical step in terms of like controls, but it still only had the single analog stick. So one of the big driving points of the original Xbox was the 2 offset analog sticks. So that way we got to have 2 sitting, like 2 ready to go at once. And it just like naturally fit into your hand. Because I think no matter how old you were, the first time any one of us ever picked up an Xbox controller, even though it was like this giant hunk of plastic that
It was disgusting.
It was disgusting, and it was fat, and it was like probably crusty from sitting in your basement.
Ew. It did feel like that though. I don't know how, but every Xbox One controller I ever picked up had that like foam expanding spray on it. You know, the stuff that like they put into walls and stuff.
Yeah.
For some reason,
why does it have that in it?
I don't know. Every Xbox controller I ever touched had that.
What's up, guys?
Welcome.
My facts are about to be checked.
I don't know who said it, but the first console to have Doom was the PlayStation 1, released on November 16th, 1995.
Woof.
Okay, so that's pretty early, but no, wait, the PlayStation 1 did have thumbsticks.
It did.
Had a control. It didn't. Not all of them did.
Yeah,
No, not all of them did, but some of the later ones did.
You're thinking of the DualShock 2 controller, which actually did have I think it also had a rumble pad in it too, like a vibration setting.
I think that I had one of those, but I'm really not sure.
That means the Doom is almost 30 years old.
Disgusting. I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate to hear it.
Any other facts need checking, boys?
I think that's it.
Then I'm out.
Good.
No, I can't think of anything. You're dismissed. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Chloe.
Thanks, Chloe.
But yeah, so if we look at it, like it was the perfect storm for like gaming as a whole. It got released with a brand new console, had all these brand new capabilities that it took full advantage of. But that's getting more into like the technical side of things. Let's first take a look at like Halo as a whole and like our introduction to it as kids. Like for me, it was the first ever rated M game that I ever had. It came out in 2001, so I was like 6-7 years old. I remember being in like second or third grade and watching and playing it for the first time. And I specifically remember like sitting in my basement on like a really old shitty CRT TV, one of those like really old ones that did like the whenever it turned on.
Yeah, remember those.
Yeah.
The ones that
like,
you sat too close to, it actually did make you blind.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but it was the static thing for me. Like you put your I didn't have arm hair at the time because I was a kid, but you put your like head up to it, and your hair started going.
Yeah, mine even had like the wood paneled sides. It had individual little buttons to control like the contrast and the brightness.
Yeah, mine. I remember I used to get texts on my Nokia track phone, and my TV would go, and then my phone would buzz. That's really because it would travel through like the tubes of the TV.
Yeah, we can go into a technical explanation of that, but I won't bore you with that.
Thanks, Nick. Let's talk about Halo more.
Yeah,
just know it's electrical voodoo.
Yeah. So we go back to that time period, and like everything that we're expecting out of games is to be like simple, blocky, like not too like fancy, or you know and you love your big old chip tunes with some small orchestra backing from like Nintendo 64 games. You load up the menu for the first time on Halo, and you're hit with that glorious the
Gregorian chants.
Yeah. And your mind immediately is just like, oh, I'm going somewhere. We're traveling to another planet. This is insanity at its finest.
This is about to hit different.
Yeah, exactly.
Nostalgia hits.
Oh, yeah. And so, like, you log in, you get ready to go, you create your profile, yada, 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 yada. You jump in, and the first thing that you are seeing is a blank screen of space. Just stars, moons, everything going on as you see a giant ship warp into view with ominous music in the background. One of the things that Halo is absolutely the best at and still holds up to this day is setting first impressions, is really just nailing that initial tone of the game. Like, you jump in, the first thing that you see is this vast universe around you, and you are just a small part in it. And that plays into the overall setting of the entire game. Like, a lot of games, a lot of movies, stories, books, and whatnot, a lot of them are focused on characters. You watch the characters progress through these stories, and it's all about them and how they evolve with the adversary, like all the like adversities that they face, and just how they progress as people. Halo is really unique in that it isn't a story about people. It's a story about a setting. We are basically treated as passengers riding through a theme park that is all about Halo. It is all about a singular installation in space that we know nothing about, and the story is all about discovering what this thing is.
Halo World would have been cool, but they went with Super Mario Land instead.
Well, to be fair, Super Mario Land, I think, plays a little better with the kids.
That's true.
Well, I mean, I've been getting killed a lot by kids on Grand Theft Auto 5 recently, so that's debatable.
Oh my god, I love that visual.
Yeah,
It's true. Are we going to talk about the lore real quick? Can I raise my hand and interrupt?
The lore?
The lore of Halo? Can we get into that?
Yeah, I love the lore of Halo.
So I don't know too much about it. I'm going to be up in front with you. I just know that there are several like chapter books written about the lore of Halo.
Yeah, there's like over 20.
Over, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's like the Pillar of Autumn and the Dawnbreaker. I might be.
There's the Fall of Reach.
Yep.
There's another one called the Flood.
Yep.
Those are the three main ones that I read as a kid.
I didn't read any of them. I just heard this nerd on Xbox Live talking about it. So.
Oh. Nice. Yeah. No, I actually own the paperback like versions of those books.
Maybe I'll read those.
Yeah.
Is there like lore? Like what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Like the whole thing that like kind of leading up to this is we knew it was going to be a launch title for the Xbox.
Okay.
Bungie had before Halo really not made anything of their own. They had basically just made remakes and had like helped other studios make their products. Mm-hmm. And so Microsoft was taking like a really big chance on Bungie and making them like their front and center product to show off the Xbox with. And even with that, like Halo itself went through a ton of different like changes under the hood. Like it was initially introduced as essentially like a real-time strategy game, similar to like StarCraft or Age of Empires.
Gotcha.
Something that was going to be played on the Xbox like that. However, it took a major drastic turn as the Xbox itself was more and more fleshed out. It didn't test super well with like certain groups. And so they're like, okay, let's see what we can do with a first-person shooter. We've already got this awesome character in Master Chief, and then these really cool Space Marines. They all shoot, so let's make a shooty game. And one of the things that like Bungie has done incredibly well ever since then, they make some of the best first-person shooting games. Like any single game that they touch that involves a gun and like a viewpoint through the first person, they nail it. Everything just
what other titles have they created?
Destiny is another.
Ooh,
one.
Gotcha.
1 and 2,
and Halo 3,
and Halo Reach,
and Halo.
That's where it stops.
And the remake of the original Halo that they released on.
Nope,
they didn't make that.
Nope.
What happened?
Yeah, 343 Studios. They left Microsoft. Yeah, because if you remember, Destiny 1 was originally like a PS3 exclusive.
Oh yeah, so they lost Halo when they did that?
Yeah. Yeah, because Halo's a Microsoft property.
Hate that.
It is now. That's why I don't play it, because I have a PS4 like a peasant.
I can help you get a PS5. Get with me after the show.
Use promo code Entertain Halo.
Don't use that anywhere. It doesn't work. Go ahead and use it. It might work.
But anyways, going back to the initial tone and plot, like it's one of the things like the first time you boot this game up, you know you're ready to go on a journey through an epic like sci-fi action thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like as a kid, it is the first time you really ever get to experience anything like that, especially where you're sitting in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
So we're quickly like introduced to the most important characters in this really awesome minimalistic story that is perfectly introduces them through like you get to meet Captain Keyes. You can tell he is the captain. He is the guy who runs this shit, tells everyone what to do. Just from his voice acting, you can tell he's a badass. Then you get introduced to Cortana, the sassy AI, who follows you throughout your entire journey. follow that all right back around to the nearly silent protagonist and Master Chief, as he wakes up from cryotherapy.
Cryotherapy.
Cryo sleep? I don't know.
It's cryo sleep.
frozen.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
like
okay.
he comes out naked. There's like ice bath. He's like, damn, it's cold in there.
That's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Basically,
He comes
yeah.
out of it, and they're just like yelling at him. They're like, "Master Chief, get out! Go on, go!"
Yeah.
Like, what the hell happened? What am I doing? Oh my
But-
god.
One of the really cool things that it does in this short time period where like it introduces these characters, it also does an awesome job of also setting up the stakes of what you're currently in. The game kind of jumps in with the volume set to 9. Like you jump in and your ship is coming out of hyperspace. It's beaten and battered, has burn marks on it. And everyone is like, what the fuck just happened? Are we all okay? Like, did we escape from them? Did we beat them? Do they know where we went? And it's just this race against time for the inevitable as the Covenant, the alien species in the game, find you, board your ship and attack, and that's when you are woken up as Mr. Master Chief.
That's an actual rank.
The
in
mystery
Navy, by the way.
boy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, his actual rank is Master Chief Petty Officer.
Master. That's it. Yeah. So they're just calling him by his rank. He doesn't really have a name. The only
No,
name
he
that
does.
Okay, it's John 117.
Yeah.
But pretty much he's just given a number. Like it's just S117, Spartan 117.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Never given an actual name. What the hell?
Well,
Is
they
he
took it
the
away from
last
him.
of the Spartans? Is that what we're to believe?
So we're led to believe that he is the only one of his kind. You're not really you're like told like, hello, Spartan. Like, and you're just like, all right, I guess I'm a Spartan.
Mhm.
He's a Spartan-II, if I remember. There's several
Yes.
generations of Spartan that are produced throughout the timeline. But yeah, he's one of the first Spartans that's still around and still alive and kicking, and they're all American badasses.
Yeah.
Okay, answer one of my burning questions from my childhood that I never thought to actually get the answer to.
Do it.
Is Master Chief human?
Yes.
Yes. And so if he is human, which you say he is,
Yes.
where the hell did he come from?
He came from he was abducted by Captain Keyes and Dr. Halsey from his home planet, which I don't remember the name of, as a like 8-year-old. He was replaced with a clone that essentially died within like a week of him being replaced. So that way it looked like a natural death. They basically stole him to the planet called Reach and inducted him into this super soldier program where he was trained from then on physically, mentally, strategically to become basically like sci-fi Captain America.
That's pretty much-
Incredible.
That's a good
Yeah.
explanation. Yeah, I just didn't realize. Like looking back on it now, I hear all the lore way back when I was playing Halo, and now hearing it now, it's like, oh, he's just abducted. He was abducted from his parents. Like, what?
Yeah,
the
I never
hell?
knew that.
Basically, Captain Keyes and Dr. Halsey went to his home planet, found him like he was the biggest and strongest of all the kids on the playground, and Dr. Halsey was like, we're taking him.
Get in the space van.
Yeah, but like it ended up being this really like cool little interaction between Dr. Halsey and John, who later becomes Master Chief, where they develop this like almost like paternal bond from it. And like basically John, like Master Chief throughout the entire story, looks at Dr. Halsey as his like mom, like the closest thing he has to it. Yeah. And so the other thing to remember is like Nick said, he's John 117. He was the 117th person in the Spartan program. There was like in his section, because they're part of the Spartan-II program. The Spartan ones basically were like a failed experiment that like made semi super soldiers, but gave them all like a bunch of like genetic problems.
Which happens, you know.
Yeah. Like they basically got like a shit ton of like radiation poisoning.
Again,
but
it
what's funny
happens.
is throughout the entire story of Halo, you actually have a member of the Spartan 1 program throughout the entire thing with you. Sergeant Johnson, the guy. Yeah. Like the guy who at the beginning, once you're like seeing all the people and military members running around the Pillar of Autumn, the guy is like, "Listen up, Marines!" Like that guy.
Sergeant Johnson.
Yeah. He is a Spartan-I. That's how it's explained that he lives through everything.
Huh. What a badass.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm an 8-year-old boy. I'm super
Mhm.
tough. I'm big. I get kidnapped off my home planet and replaced by a clone, which dies, which
Yep.
is like the classic story of fairies, by the way, but I'll let it go. And they train me to be a Spartan. Now I'm a big, muscular Captain America type. I'm a Spartan
7
2.
foot tall. Yep.
What up? 7 foot tall. What up? Spartan 2. And they're like, get in this freaking fridge, dummy. And I do. And they put me on a ship. And then the ship goes off into space. And some aliens see the ship. And they're like, we don't like that. We don't like that one bit. We're going to stop that. So they get onto my ship. They start killing all these people. And then they're like, get out of the fridge, dummy. Go and kill these aliens.
Get out of the fridge.
We missed a few steps here and there. Like, we're no longer 8 years old.
No. We grew up while they were training us. We knew that.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's basically it.
So
Yeah,
I'm out.
you didn't-
I'm out. I'm on the ship. I'm being attacked by these weird things, these aliens,
So,
and I'm mentally I'm 8 because I never went
Yeah.
to school, so I'm 8 in my
No,
head.
you went to school. In fact, you went to like private school.
Oh, okay, so
put
I'm
on by
good.
the
I'm
military.
I have
Yeah,
an
yeah.
adult brain, and I'm like,
You
I'm
went-
gonna
you went to
handle this.
combat school.
Yeah.
I'm gonna handle this the only way a John knows how, and that's with a
Yeah.
gun. And so I get a gun, and I'm doing a gun thing. So what happens next?
All right, you wake up.
You didn't get into the backstory of like why the aliens are at
No,
war
I
with
didn't
humans.
because we keep talking about Master Chief.
All right, so let's
Alex,
throw it
stop
back.
it.
I'm trying
All
to
right.
keep us on a narrative
Okay,
path
okay,
here.
okay.
Let's throw her back.
We'll go through this really quickly, really quickly. Basically, there is this like religious cult of aliens that is attacking everything else, trying to find artifacts left behind by the this other like the Forerunners, the ancient group
Forerunners,
of
that's
aliens who are basically created all of this high tech stuff across the universe, like the Halo installations.
Yep.
Sure.
The Covenant believes that these Halo installations are the way for them to basically go to paradise, to go to the afterlife, to heaven. And they believe that they have to find and activate all of these things and that they will be sent to heaven. So their whole goal is like, we're trying to find this stuff and you get in our way, we're going to kill all of you. We're going to eradicate your entire species. Humans don't like that.
Were
so
humans
they fight
also
back.
looking for these artifacts?
No, the humans had no clue about what they were talking about.
Okay,
Basically,
so
these aliens started attacking them, trying to find this shit, and the humans were like, "We can't understand you. You're super advanced, but like you're trying to kill us, so we're gonna kill you back."
we just like stumbled in on it, on
Yes.
this like weird thing that was happening, and we were like, "Hey, howdy, hey, neighbor," and they were like, "Glock." Brrr. We were like,
It was,
"Ah."
yeah. They basically looked at the humans, went, "What," and then shot them.
They were like the Charlie Brown parents, but with like AKs. They're like, wah,
Yeah,
wah, 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 brr, brr.
I think he was doing like was that an arbiter sound effect?
Yeah. Well, no, that was the sound. That was the sound that all the elites were just, "What."
So many memories.
Okay, so these aliens are looking for these ancient religious artifacts to get to heaven, and we're like, what the hell are you talking about? We don't speak your language.
Yep.
And they're like, all right, we'll get ready to die. They don't say that. They say, wah, 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 wah. And then we're like,
Yeah.
all right, wake up, Master Chief. These bitches is shooting at us, and we don't know why. Get out there. Do what you got to do.
At this point, like the humans basically just think all of the Covenant are just trying to eradicate humanity, which they are, but they don't know about any end goals. So
They're trying
so
to
now we're
eradicate
here.
like humanity. Like if you saw an
They're
ant in
trying
your
to-
kitchen and you're like, I need to get rid of all these fucking ants. Like that's
Yeah,
the same
it's-
energy they're coming at us with.
It's more like you are trying to cook like a 5-star meal, and your like cast iron frying pan is covered in ants.
Mm.
It's
Oh,
like
that's no fun at all.
you got to kill it all to get to your tool. Like you
Yeah.
you need this thing, but it's covered in all the stuff you don't want, so you got to kill it in order to get to it.
Except
Better
somehow
glass
the
it.
ants built an ant suit that turns an ant into a wasp, and it keeps stinging your ass.
Basically,
and that's Master Chief.
Yep.
He's an ant in a
Oh, yeah.
wasp suit.
Yep.
Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that like the introduction of this game does that it does so incredibly well is it follows the long-standing tradition of show don't tell. Like you start this game up and you're just thrust immediately into the action without like a long 5-minute like explanation, like a long 5-minute prologue filled with exposition about like the lore of the universe or anything. It's like you're just thrust in and you are good to go. You're given all the immediate information that you need. You just know you're a big ass dude that seems like a giant cyborg, but is human, is 2 feet taller than everyone else, and likes guns. And that's basically it. Except you start the game with no gun. You wake up as Master Chief and you have to find your way to the bridge to see Captain Keyes, and you don't get a gun throughout the entire thing. And that's where the gameplay of this game is so fucking good.
What do you do?
It does such a good job of slowly introducing the different concepts in the game to you as you go. Like you are not worried about trying to shoot anyone. You aren't worrying about like escaping or anything. Like you just have one goal or anything. So you get to get very familiar with just how to move, how to look. That's all you have to do. You get to learn how to turn on like your flashlight, and that's about it. And through this whole process, you get shown how dangerous the Covenant are. You see the elites and the grunts easily overpowering and killing your fellow crew members, these Marines. They just easily are overtaking them. So you just have to kind of make your way through just to Captain Keyes, where you get your first gun. So after you experience the Covenant for the first time ever, seeing how dangerous you are, now it's your job to take them on and kill them. And it does such a good job of putting into perspective how badass Master Chief is, because you just get handed a tiny little pistol. You walk out there, put 3 rounds into an elite, and he's dead. It's like all of these other Marines have been struggling this whole time, and now you are their savior. It's your job to kill everything. But the Covenant are strong. They overtake the Pillar of Autumn, and you have to take refuge on the one place that you can in this near space, which is on the Halo installation.
Okay, time out again.
What are the Halo installations in the first place? You want to explain that?
Hold on. Wait, the Pillar of Autumn is your spaceship, yeah?
Yes. It is the name of your spaceship.
A memory that I have so vividly is being around the age that you were saying, like 6, 7. This is like one of the first video games that I'm playing through like on my own with no one with me. And I remember being on this spaceship, and multiple hallways are just lined with escape pods.
Yep.
And I just remember walking up to every single one like, come on, go. All right, come on, this one, go.
I was just trying to get out of
Come on,
here.
let's go. I'm like, why am I still on this ship right now?
Yeah. So what happened is all of the escape pods had already shot off or had been blown off by the Covenant. So like one of the things you notice is as you're walking down the hallways, where a lot of the escape pods would be, are now the way that the Covenant have made it onto the ship. Basically, the Covenant destroyed the escape pods and then attached their own pods to that location so they could easily get on.
Actually, kind of smart.
Very
honest.
Yeah, don't have to try and blow a hole in the hole.
So another thing I remember from the first game, I could have sworn most of it took place on a spaceship, but I guess not. But there's a second enemy as well that's like these parasitical flying ghost things.
Maybe we'll get there.
Okay, I'm gonna hold on then. I'm gonna let you get us. You drive this boat to that destination because I got a lot of questions.
Sidebar: is he talking about the flood?
Oh, maybe yes, he is.
Oh, okay, continue. We'll get to him.
So like I was saying, like the game does such a good job of slowly introducing you to all of the different elements, and one of the most important parts of any game, especially an FPS game, is the enemies that you take on. So this first level, you basically only get a glimpse of the Covenant. The grunts, which are basically just like the cannon fodder. Their whole shtick is like they are very, very weak individually, but very strong in numbers. But the only issue is they can become very disorganized when they don't have a leader. Those leaders are typically the elites. They're field commanders. These characters, the ones that go what. These are the people who basically run the show. They're as strong as essentially Master Chief. They have overshields like what Master Chief has, because Master Chief, like in Dr. Halsey basically like stole that technology from them and was like, cool, now you have this. But it like requires like a giant battery to power, which is essentially Master Chief.
Kind of makes sense. Yeah.
That's why like not every Marine has it. But you got the elites. They basically control everything. Then you got the jackals. The jackals are the little
Hate 'em.
bird-looking guys with the
Hate 'em.
shields. And the whole thing with them is that like they have these shields and will try to hold like specific areas. And they require like really good precision to try and hit like very small, tight windows to make them lift their shield up so you can hit the rest of them. Or a very well-placed grenade. That also works very well.
Granada.
And then apart from that, later on in the game, you get introduced to another type of enemy, the Flood, which is essentially this swarm-like parasitic entity that the entire goal of them is that like they will overwhelm you with sheer numbers.
And this is like a completely different entity with different goal. Like this one's hungry, and that's like it from what I remember, right?
Just a parasite. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Their entire goal within this universe is to consume and eat all sentient life. That's
try.
it. Yeah.
They really try.
The really cool thing about these enemies is they will literally come from anywhere. They will spawn anywhere. It's not like you are expecting like you're on ground floor and you're going to run into a bunch of enemies on this floor. It's like, no, these things will come up below you, behind you, above you, to your sides. They'll sometimes jump through like giant crevices and then they're just out to get you.
Really kind of creepy.
And then, yeah, very. And then even like later on, you run into the things that are designed to kill the Flood, the Sentinels. Basically, these like machine-like drones that their entire thing is like they have lasers with that like burn, and which is very, very effective against wearing down shields and the Flood. And the coolest part about all of this is that every single one of these enemies has a very distinct strategy and personality that is very easy to be seen throughout the game. But yeah, and then the campaign as a whole. The campaign in Halo is what separates it from every other FPS, especially at the time. You even go back to like GoldenEye. GoldenEye is like small individual missions, like as you're following along as James Bond. Not really too much of an overarching story or anything like that. But usually, like even then, the stories for most games, even like story-driven games at the time, are not like super in-depth. They're not like something that really captures you to the core for the most part, with some rare specific examples or exceptions.
Yeah, it's kind of rare because I mean, at the time, you had games like Doom. That was like the primordial FPS, if you want to think about it like that. And
well, even before then was Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein too, yeah. I mean, there was, what do you do in Wolfenstein? You kill Nazis.
Wolfenstein, you are a guy and you kill Nazis.
That's it. That's all you do. I can understand that. Doom, it's like, well, I'm killing demons. Everyone wants to kill
Doom is Wolfenstein, but you're killing demons. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah,
like there was no real story to it. It's just like, here's the bad guy, go kill the bad guy.
Right.
I can do that. That's easy.
Yeah, and then you even go further, and it's like you got like Unreal Tournament. It's like, oh, now you're playing against another player. Okay. Yeah, and then you even got like Duke Nukem, basically just Doom, but with sillier.
Yeah, way sillier. Came here to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum. That's Spartan-117's catchphrase, by the way.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've heard Master Chief say that at least zero times. But Halo Combat Evolved is one of the first FPS games that gives you true purpose throughout the entire game. That is what it does. Is instead of it just being this aimless game where you're just going around shooting things and you've got just like a general idea, the story and the plot around the game is your sense of motivation. You don't know anything about like the outside context about what's going on. You barely know who you are or the people around you are. You know next to nothing about who you're killing, but goddamn, is this story fucking good? Mm-hmm. Basically, like you are just sent down onto this planet, or this fake planet thing, this big ring.
Yeah.
And you are just told like, okay, go have fun. With every once in a while at the end of a level or in the middle, you get fed little story points where it's like, cool, now go do this next thing. And you know exactly what it is and you want to do it. A good example of this is the second level, just called Halo. where you, after escaping on a drop pod from the Pillar of Autumn, every single one of the Marines around you who came down in the same drop pod as you died. Killed on impact. You were the only survivor. And your first interpretation is like you see lush plains, mountains, waterfalls, and some weird alien technology all around you. And this giant, essentially close to a sandbox landscape. You basically are like, you can either sit there and wait, and eventually a Covenant dropship will come around to try and sweep the area. And if they see you, they will drop and they will try and kill you. Or you can listen to Cortana as you walk across the bridge and head into a valley, a ravine, sparing yourself the trouble. And your entire mission in this is to figure out what happened. Where are you? And like realizing that you need help. So you find other Marines that you save and to try and take with you. However, the cool thing about Halo is a lot of the levels are pretty much sandbox levels. You don't have to follow along with what's going on. During this entire mission, you can do the entire thing without ever saving another Marine. The goal is save as many as you want to, and at the end of it, a Pelican, one of the larger localized ships, will come and try and pick you all up.
Space helicopters, if you will.
Basically, it's a space helicopter. They'll try and come pick you up, but if you don't rescue any Marines, it doesn't ever show up. Yeah.
So you have to rescue at least one.
You can get a bad ending.
Yeah.
Can you get a bad ending? Is that true?
No.
So if it never shows up, what do you do? How does the game end?
You just move on. It moves to the next mission, just as if it never happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Which the next mission is basically you find out that you have other Marines that you need to save. Except this time, instead of them being just scattered across the Halo, they are on a single Covenant ship where you have to sneak on and then free the prisoners. And that's where you find Sergeant Johnson again.
Yeah, he's trapped, isn't he?
Yeah. He's being held prisoner with a bunch of other Marines.
Who's the guy who's maybe the flood gets him, or maybe he's just stuck in this goo wall, but he's stuck to a wall and he's you have to kill me, and you have to shoot him in the face.
So that is Captain Keyes.
No.
Yeah. So what happens is later on in the game, which
spoilers. Whoops.
Yeah. That's fine.
Spoilers. This game's almost 20 years old, but whatever.
I'm just
20 years old. It came out November 11th, 2001.
As these flashes are coming to me, I'm just word vomiting, so I may have just skipped a whole bunch, but that's one of those. That's one of those moments where it's I'm gonna remember this for a while.
Yeah. Well, so let's go to a little bit before that. So one of the best moments in any video game that I remember ever happening is the introduction of the flood. The mission where you get introduced to this, you basically land in a swamp. There's fog and mist everywhere around you. You don't have a lot of visuals, but as you're walking through this level, you're really not encountering a lot of enemies. The enemies you do encounter are just Covenant, and they're running and screaming away from something. You see up on the ridges away people who look like they are Marines taking out Covenant. So you just get little small glimpses of them. So you just keep making your way, and you don't really have to kill too many Covenant. You find your way into this Forerunner, because the Forerunners are who built the Halos, into this Forerunner little bunker. And you see just blood and Covenant killed everywhere. You run into a downed Pelican, the space helicopters. It's just kind of sitting there, and it's out of commission. You know that you are trying to come here to rescue some Marines that have been stranded, that they have been trapped. So you make your way through, and through this entire installation, everything's already dead. There's blood and guts spilled all over the walls, and they're all just massacred. The only thing that's missing are a lot of the bodies of the elites. Every once in a while, you see a dead Marine, you see another here or there, and as you're walking through, before you ever know what's going on, you walk into this room and you see up against a wall a crazed Marine shooting you with a shotgun, screaming nonsense at you. And unfortunately, he's not going to stop unless you kill him.
Ooh.
And so you have to do that. You have to put him out of his misery. Later on in the level, you try to open a door and a dead body comes through. The dead body of a Marine. You pick up his helmet and you're able to find like a little video recording of what happened here. You sit there and you watch the entire thing as it goes from a few Marines with Sergeant Johnson on the Pelican talking about this mission, and then they go in and you watch as they slowly figure out what is happening. It uses all of the best like horror techniques possible to really introduce this flood. And like throughout this entire thing, you don't ever see the flood. You just see them being overwhelmed, and you hear the little chattering of the flood that you hear throughout the rest of the game.
I hate it.
And basically, you're left knowing like something is here. I don't know what, and I hate it. And that's when you see the elites that were all supposedly killed, except now they are completely filled with this parasitic flood, and it is your job to kill them. As you see, not just the elites, but also the other Marine bodies that you passed on the way, now infected, coming after you.
Yeah, it's like zombies.
Yeah, essentially the flood are introduced as an infectious zombie-like race that just swarms you, and it's just like, I remember having to put the game down and having to walk away for like 2 or 3 days.
Because you were a scared little kid?
Yeah, well, and the next level is called the library, where it's essentially your job to go in and find the index to decode some information for the Halo installation. Mm-hmm. The entire thing is an endless wave of the flood coming after you.
Oh, Lord.
As you try and find this fucking index, and it is the worst, most horrifying feeling in the world. Like, I'm getting flashbacks right now to the just absolute dread. Like, I straight up didn't beat this mission for a month because I had to take like 1 or 2 day breaks.
Because you just couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it. Like, I was frustrated and scared.
This is the worst combination to experience in a video game.
Exactly.
I mean, Halo 3's flood, the way it was introduced to you in that game, if I may bring it back, is I don't think it's as scary as that, really.
No. Well, because the expectation is that you've already encountered it and defeated it once.
Oh. And then where does the Gravemind guy come into this? Is he
comes from Halo 2.
Okay, so we won't get to him. But I was curious.
No.
So it just says like a quick little thing. Basically, the Flood are a semi-sentient hive mind, where they basically consume the intelligence of whatever they eat. And this intelligence then, after they get enough of it, then conglomerates into a giant being known as a Gravemind, which essentially controls all of the local flood. And then even then, the Graveminds are then like, they can be connected through this hive mind intergalactically. That's why, that's why in like Halo 2, you meet the Gravemind, which is the first time you ever meet one, and it knows who you are because it absorbed that knowledge when it consumes Captain Keyes in the first Halo.
Man, that's fucked.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those sci-fi games that's, I think, intergalactic, if we want to set the scale. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just the Milky Way. I think there's other galaxies too, but
I think I don't know. I believe it's just the Milky Way for now, but I'm not positive because I never played 4 or 5.
It's space. Okay.
It's space. It's a space game.
Sometimes I forget that the Milky Way galaxy is not our solar system, and my mind is blown all over again.
Solar system is big, trust me. But then the Milky Way is even bigger. And then there's the local group, and then there's the entire observable universe, and then you keep zooming out and out.
Because
it goes on forever.
You think to yourself, you're like, well, obviously the universe is like us, like our sun to Pluto, like that's the universe, and like it is, but there's like ever expanding outside of that, which is just terrifying. It's the reason why statistically Star Wars is happening somewhere out in the pitch blackness of space. We just have to find it.
in a
Yeah.
galaxy
Statistically, it
far,
has
far
to.
away.
That's right.
Mhm. The whole multiverse theory, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. The multiverse theory is a bit more complicated, but
It is.
we're not a science podcast,
Nah.
so we won't get into it.
We could be. Don't try.
But there's all of this.
son. I studied string theory instead of going to college.
Well played. Science this. I don't know. What would you even call that? We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it out.
Yeah. But so we're looking at this campaign as a whole, and like even just thinking about it, like it has gripped all of us, like from at least like from the perspective of going back and playing it, seeing it from the perspective of Nick, like seeing the after effects of it, or Alex, you played it yourself. Like you got to experience
as a baby boy, I was given nightmares as a 6-year-old child. They were like, "Hey, did you know that sometimes these things can get inside of you and control your dead body?" And I was like, "I'm 6."
Ew. I'm kind of glad I didn't play this game as a kid, honestly.
Yeah, it was horrifying but incredible.
Something that I love about human memory is the things that stay with us throughout our lives from when we were young are usually traumatic. So the fact that I remember it means that back then it must have really messed me up.
Yeah,
That's deep.
But it's this, all of this sort of like the story and plot surrounding an FPS game, especially, completely unheard of.
Oh yeah.
No one had ever really experienced anything like this. This was late 2001, like 20 years ago. We're just coming off the back of like the closest possible thing being basically like Banjo-Kazooie.
Hey, the first Spider-Man movie was about to come out or had just come out.
Yeah, and then for the PlayStation 2, the first Spider-Man game.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember playing that.
Everybody was out there playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Yep.
in their floral Hawaiian shirts and such. It was a different time.
I had one of those shirts with the flames on it, like Guy Fieri.
Yeah, I wore one of those to a banquet where I was given an award because I thought it was fancy.
Well,
it's a button up. It has a collar.
There's a certain type of person that can pull that look off, and
it wasn't me. It wasn't me at 6 years old. I
will remember.
That guy.
I do remember seeing those shirts, especially the ones down at like the mall that like had Goku on it with the flames, and I was like, "Oh, I want that so bad." There's
still guys out there wearing that shirt. I see it all the time.
Well, now they're collector's editions.
Now they're they have kids.
Let's go back to talking about Halo.
All right.
So how does it? What's the conclusion here? What happens?
Yeah. So the conclusion is basically that you, as Master Chief, you find out that the Halos are not this like religious artifact. They're not just this like satellite out in space. They are a weapon. They are a weapon capable of mass destruction that no being has ever heard of before. Essentially, what it can do is with a single pulse, it can wipe out all sentient life within 25 light years.
Oh my God.
Or sorry, not 25, 25,000.
Ah! That's worse.
I gotta look that up.
It's 25,000 light years.
I can't even you say numbers and I can't like think about
basically. So let's put this in perspective. Basically, this ship made a blind slip space jump that they had no clue where it would ever land them, and Earth and all of humanity is within the radius of this 25,000 light year distance.
Hey, wait a minute! Don't destroy Earth. What the hell?
Yeah.
I live
there.
And
so the whole reasoning behind this is so these Halo installations, their secondary or their primary goal is to basically be a prison for the Flood, to keep them from destroying the universe, from consuming everything.
Ooh.
However, as a secondary protocol, they're able to do this because technically the Flood aren't intelligent. The Halos can't kill the Flood, but what they can do is they can kill all forms of food that exist in the universe for the Flood, effectively killing them off.
Starve the beast.
Yep, exactly. And so you as Master Chief and Cortana, you figure this out, and now it is your goal to figure out a way to disable the Halo or to destroy it. Because you know that the Flood exists here, the Covenant exists here, All your enemies exist here, so why not blow it up?
Destroy the Halo. Wasn't there a
Yep.
map on Halo 3 that was like a containment zone for the flood?
I don't remember.
I don't remember the name of the map. I wish I could transfer pictures in my head to you so that you could see what I'm seeing. But then I go really,
it's
I go
okay. I
really
can't
wrong.
see pictures in my head, anyways.
Yeah. I can
If
see it in my
anybody,
head.
if there's a
I want you to see it.
psychologist out there who wants to get on the horn with our boy Michael and tell him why he can't see pictures in his head, that'd be cool. Because he's
Yeah,
like
I love
on
it.
it all the time. He can't imagine things. If you try to paint a mental picture for him, he sees it as a text box because he's a programmer.
Poor
Maybe
guy.
you're not
Yeah.
real. Maybe you're a robot. Maybe that's
A
why.
simulation. Yeah.
He's doing his best. Come on. But yeah, it's a flood containment zone, and it has like all this gooey orangish brown stuff underneath. That's like grass over top, and that's surrounded by like silver walls.
I mean, that just sounds like it could be anyone, like any location on a Halo.
It is on
So,
a Halo.
Yeah.
I think. I don't really know. It was a map in Halo 3, so look it up.
Well, if I remember right, like 95% of Halo 3 happens on Earth.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. And then there's
Yeah.
like that one level where you go to the flood ship thing, and
Yeah, that's what it is because you leave Cortana behind in Halo 2. You leave her behind on the Halo to try and contain the Gravemind. The Gravemind takes over Cortana, learns the location of Earth. They infect a Covenant ship, and they fly that with the Gravemind and Cortana to Earth, which is what you
Ruh-roh.
encounter. Yep.
that's a
And
big
now you've got the
problem.
Flood, this parasitic, sentient life-eating being, now on Earth, where there's lots of sentient life.
Well, it's not
Yeah.
ideal.
We should stop
but-
playing video games because we really do just make matters worse for sequel reasons.
But yeah, so that covers like the generic plot of it. So essentially at the end, you as Master Chief, you go to try and like destroy the Halo, this ring. Your only goal, like your only option, is to basically use the core of the Pillar of Autumn, which is crash landed and destroyed. Essentially, use that as a nuclear bomb to blow up the Halo. One of the coolest moments that I remember specifically about this campaign, this portion of the campaign, is that they use gameplay to set the scene. You get onto this destroyed Pillar of Autumn, you're taken back to like a very reminiscent but powered down part of the first mission where you're trying to escape the Pillar of Autumn. There's weapons from the different armories strewn everywhere. However, like none of the guns have any ammo. So it's like you have infinite resources seemingly, but it's all very, very slight. There's not really a lot. It's like artificial scarcity, essentially. It makes you,
You mean
feel
capitalism?
Yeah.
Got 'em.
You need to leave.
Well, just like capitalism, it makes you feel this like heavy sense of desperation that you need to find something, that you need to work harder to try and find this thing that you need, these bullets and these weapons to try and kill the Sentinels, so that way you can take control of the ship, so you can explode its core, which leads to one of the most like tense moments in the game, where you basically set the core to explode, and now you have like 20 in real life minutes. It's like 10 in real life minutes to try and like escape the Pillar of Autumn on a Warthog. Warthog
That's
being
exactly
like basically
Halo
a Jeep.
3. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a Jeep.
Yeah.
I
Why
love
do they end
that.
these games on the like the clock ticking? Just to
Yeah.
they always do that. Or
Yep.
in my experience, I guess what you're telling me with Halo 1 and how it ends in Halo 3, it's all clicking,
Yeah.
clicking, talk, tick. It's a TikTok.
Yep.
I got there.
So real quick, let's round this thing out with like some of the critiques of this game. In fact, there are flaws with this game. Yes, there are flaws that other people have with this game. One of them is that there is some particular sections of the game that you could tell. Well, I mean, they straight up are just reused assets. Like it is just like literally the same level. However, my argument is that this is not a bad thing. This is not a flaw with this game. If we go back to the descriptions of the different enemies, each one has their own personality. And
Okay.
throughout the game so far, you've only encountered one type of enemy at a time, either the Covenant, the Flood, or the Sentinels. Now, there is one mission called Assault on the Control Room where you take on the Covenant as you fight to the control center of the Halo ring.
Mm-hmm.
Then, later on, there's another mission called Two Betrayals. This is literally the exact same mission, just played backwards. And throughout it, you are making your way through it as the three enemy factions are fighting each other throughout the entire thing. So you've got the Covenant fighting the Flood, you've got the Sentinels fighting the Flood and the Covenant, and then the Flood trying to fight both of them. So you can approach this mission in a completely different way. You can either go in as the usual guns blazing, trying to kill everything in sight, or you can play it smartly. You can wait until all the different factions take each other out. And just like you basically just now take on the thinned ranks of whoever came out on top. Mm-hmm. And so it's this whole idea of basically taking what we already know and flipping the expectations on their head. It gives us this vast new presentation where the problems that you now have to solve are completely different. And that to me, like, completely eliminates this reused assets and levels critique. Which is saying something, because like if that's the only critique and it's a pretty easy one to kind of like dispel, there's not too much wrong with this game.
That's what I was going to say. It's not a bug. It's a feature. What are you doing?
And it's one of those games where like even today, like I went back and played it on my computer because I've got the remade edition, the Master Chief Collection from Steam. I went back and played it not too long ago. Still holds up extremely well. One of the best things it has going for it is that the gameplay is like fair, balanced, and fun. You can approach and learn from every single aspect. Like every time you encounter something, very similar to like Dark Souls, it's difficult, but you're given chances to learn, and you can grow and learn and overcome this difficulty as you go, which hits all the serotonin parts of my brain. It's just like overcoming a challenge and learning for me are like what make me feel good. Hence why Dark Souls is one of my favorite games. And now I went back and played Halo, hits all those same exact notes, gives you just enough ample opportunity to learn from what you did. You got your shield, your temporary health, essentially, which goes away pretty quickly. Then you go down to your regular health, which is like your oh shit button. And that's where you know shit's getting real.
That's when it tells you
boop, 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 boop. Yep. Really need to like hone in and learn in this moment. Like, what are you fucking up?
Everything.
And then by the end of it, you overcome it and you learn and you grow. And that to me is like the part of any game that makes it great.
On a side note, before we jump into the quick this, Michael, I heard a little team building exercise that I think we should implement, where Nick and I come over and play Dark Souls with you, but every time that somebody dies, you have to pass the controller and take a drink. And every time someone dies, you drink.
Me?
Basically, like if you die, no, like if you die, you pass the controller and you drink. And then when the next person dies, they pass the controller and they drink. And that's the whole game.
Okay. All right. Do I get to play, or is it just you two?
It's all three of us.
Okay,
you
cool.
can just drink as normal. I mean,
well, I was gonna say, like, I could be like the coach, and like every third death I drink.
No, you're gonna play too.
All right, cool.
Team building exercise. Hey, let's jump over to the quick this segment with our host from last week, Nick Mustakangas.
Hey, that's me. I'm of course going to need a timer, and I do hope.
Timer, I barely know her.
Get it yourself.
All right. On a side note, I think we need to bring on a Halo expert or somebody that's like really engrossed in the lore, and just tell me what is all the lore going on, because I'd like to revisit Halo at some point.
Yeah, hey, I know quite a bit about the lore, so I'd love to have a good conversation with you about it.
Guys, we just had an hour-long conversation about the lore.
I'd love to have another.
3 hours. Okay.
All right, you ready?
This. I think I do. Yes, I'm
ready. All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. So to start my quick this tonight, let's play a game of 2 truths and a lie.
Oh.
Yep, we're going to do this. I'll start with a series of 3 statements, and y'all have to decide which is a lie and which 2 are true. So you guys ready? You want to play this? Or
Do we get to know what the topic of the quick this is first, or is that going to give away the
Nope.
answer?
that comes
Okay,
later.
fine.
Okay. All right.
All right. Yeah. This is one of those levels that you can't skip because reasons. I've never been to a live concert. I've never been to a NASCAR race. I've never broken a bone. 2 truths and a lie. Which is which?
You've never been to a live concert.
Michael?
No, I'm gonna say you've never been to a NASCAR race.
I've seen his tickets.
Oh, fuck off. Damn it. You got insider info on this bullshit?
Okay,
All right.
here's the lie. I've never been to a live concert. I have. It was a band called Dream Theater.
You've
I
never
have been to
broken a
NASCAR
bone?
race. I've never broken a bone. True.
You motherfucker.
I'm confused as to how you're going to turn this into entertainment, but
So
I'm
here's the thing.
curious.
I'll admit something live on this podcast. I'm coming out of the closet. I
I don't think
NASCAR
that's
race.
right. I don't.
I went to a
Hold
NASCAR
on.
race and I thought it was pretty neat.
Okay.
And that's the topic of my quick this tonight.
NASCAR?
NASCAR.
Okay, you're not.
yee-yee. All
You're
right.
not coming out of a closet, but continue.
Yes, I'm coming out of a trailer or something like that with a.
Woo! NASCAR,
You're coming
turn
out
left.
of your
All right.
cage, and you've been doing just fine. Now go.
Okay. When we look at a map of our great United States, you'll see some large paved ovals dotting the landscapes from sea to shining she. Sells seashells by
You
the
want to take
seashore.
that line again?
There you go.
Nope. Are they ancient monuments, earthworks of native tribes, or maybe just some large sporting venues built on the world? The answer is, of course, the latter. The outside of our pre-existing assumptions about auto racing, I'd like to educate and inform you about this great American sport known as NASCAR, which is an acronym, by the way, standing for the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing. So from
I
that,
didn't
you can
know
pick
that.
up on the fundamentals of the sport. They make stock cars, in air quotes, go fast, and the fastest car is the winner. So there you go. That's easy enough. But there are, of course, rules and regulations, and those are all boring, and nobody cares. So we're going to gloss over those. Now, you might have heard that it's a bunch of rednecks going fast and turning left. For the most part, that's accurate. Even the fans that come out to these events are largely more rural-oriented folks. But what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your minds. These drivers don't always turn left. Sometimes they turn right and, wait for it, left. The race I went out to see a couple weeks back was called the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard. The Brickyard being, of course, a nickname for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And would you believe it, this course had both left and right turns in it. It's something NASCAR likes to call a road course. The 200 in the race's title refers to the number of miles that they go around in circles to attain this mileage. So coincidentally, this was the number of miles that I had to travel to get up there too. It was pretty much all day ordeal for me. You wake up, you get ready, be on the road for 2 hours, and then you get to the speedway, which is a massive, really, really, really big stadium-like structure. The track itself is so large that it could fit 9 holes of a golf course inside and comfortably seat 250,000 people in the stands. Now, I didn't see too many fans in the seats those days when I went, but whether it was COVID or a decline in viewership, I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is that these cars were extremely, ear-splittingly loud. Think of that one guy that goes up and down your street at 10 o'clock right when you're trying to go to sleep. And is pimped
Jimmy
out
who
Honda
took his
Civic.
freaking muff off, his
Yeah.
Sedoya or whatever.
Yeah. That one dude in a pimped out Honda Civic who's flying down your street, and he just chopped off his muffler because he thought it would sound cool. Think of that times like 50 or so. I was, of course, foolish and kept my hearing protection off when they were speeding up right in front of me on the front straightaway more than 100 feet away. Immediately, I did regret this decision, and I will never do it again. The stands rattled and shook and reverberated as the noise was only a mere 100 feet away, and I could probably feel it in my bones as 40 cars at 500 horsepower sailed right by me. Needless to say, I did have my earplugs in for the duration of the 3-hour race in front of me, but at face value, yes, NASCAR is a bunch of rednecks going fast and turning left, but if you dig a little deeper, you can understand the entertainment value, the strategy, the engineering, and the endurance behind every turn. Oh, and the crashes, of course. It's probably the only reason I used to watch the show when it came on the TV every Sunday when Dad had it on. There's something spectacular about seeing a car ripped to shreds after smacking into a wall and the driver walking away just like it's another day in the office. But yeah, that car cost over $1 million, and it's money well spent. After all, there's nothing more American than wasting gas and going in circles in fast cars while making a bunch of noise. So yeah, NASCAR is a fun thing to watch, and there's nothing better else to watch on. But I'd recommend going to see what all the fuss is about live, at least once in person to one of these events. And I'm done talking now. And that was my quick this.
Cool. Alex, have you ever been to a NASCAR race?
I have.
Ooh, so this is something we've all experienced.
I've been
The
in
one thing.
Wow, this is the one thing we've all done because we're all
Whack.
from the sticks.
The three of us, the one thing that the three of us have experienced, well, two things. One, NASCAR, two, Skyrim.
Yeah, and those are the things.
Experience now.
Now, what I will say is NASCAR is one of those, it's one of the only things in entertainment. It's this and movie theaters where the closer you are to the action, the worse your experience is.
Oh yeah.
Because like I was in the pit. So I was like in the middle where like people like sit up on their like RVs and shit and like do the yee stuff and throw cans at people and stuff. I was there. I was helping with the youth group in town. I was helping like watch these kids as we went on this like youth group field trip. And yeah, it's loud. And if you're in the pit, you do not get to watch a race. Nope. You get to watch a lot of loud cars go past you about every 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I remember we probably stayed for about 10 laps. And then I was like, well, I've had enough of this action.
Yep.
Had enough being here now. I'm ready to not be here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say like the one part about like a NASCAR race that is like unique and like really thrilling is like when you are down close to the track, when the cars go by, you feel it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
feel it like rattle your chest.
Feel it in your chest. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is something that like, you can't really experience that like consistently anywhere else. However, I will say too, the first time I went to a NASCAR race, I went with my dad. He got tickets through like a business partner or something. Mm-hmm. We were there for all of about 15 minutes in like a booth with like provided dinner and all that. And after 15 minutes, I was like, Dad, can we leave?
You just buggered out after
and my dad was like, no, like we have to stay. We have to stay for a little bit. Like, I'm sure it's gonna like everyone tells me they love this, so we gotta stay and like it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. Mm-hmm. Another
it
20
doesn't get
minutes.
Better.
Another 20 minutes goes by and my dad just looks like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
We stayed for like 30, 45 minutes, and then as we're leaving on the way back out to the car, like a guy just like right next to the entrance, like 5 feet away from me, just projectile vomits.
Oh.
And that's the memory
Classic.
I have about NASCAR.
Yeah,
that's a Vlasic crunch right there.
They have a really loose admittance policy where you can bring in a cooler filled with whatever you want. So people were drinking.
You know what I just thought? The best NASCAR entertainment that anyone can possibly experience, the Daytona 500 all gas, no brakes episode.
That's quality content.
It is the most amazing NASCAR content ever created.
It'll give you a pretty good slice of life if you're looking for
counter argument. Talladega Nights.
That's also a good film.
Yeah, that's long form entertainment. If you want like good 5-10 minutes, all gas, no brakes. If you want a good hour and a half of like Will Ferrell being an idiot, Talladega Nights.
That's right.
I'd rather be the
one boys
with you, but whatever.
Boys, we've done it again. We've talked our heads off for another hour. We've created more content, and we shall send it into the ether. Thank you all for listening to our ramblings on Halo and NASCAR. Two things that go together like chocolate and peanut butter, if you ask me. Throw Master Chief in a NASCAR. Let's see what happens.
They're both in rings if you want to draw that connection, I guess.
Hey.
Great. Hey, way to go. You did it. You did it. See, this is why we keep you around, Nick, is because you fill in the gaps where we just can't. And it means a lot.
I like it when Nick fills in my gaps.
As always, if there's anything that you guys want to hear us cover here on the show, we take suggestions. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to see maybe what we haven't covered yet, what you'd like to see us cover. We are always looking for new entertainment to consume. So if there's something that we haven't talked about that you think would be a good fit for us or that you think would be a terrible fit for us and you just want to hear us rant about it for an hour, confused and scared, we'll do that. So send us your suggestions. you can send it to us via email at entertainthispodcast@gmail.com. There's also a website, entertainthis.net. You scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a questionnaire that you can fill out there. It sends it straight to our inbox. It's a little bit easier for you. Get in contact with us some other ways. Tell us what you think about the show. Tell us what you thought about our opinions on Halo and NASCAR. You can do that via our Twitter. We are entertain_this, or you can hit us up in our DMs on Instagram. We are Entertain This Podcast. We also have a Facebook page. It's Podcast Entertain This, and we post there every Friday with new updates on new episodes. We also have a YouTube. You can subscribe there. We have a bunch of social medias. If you look up Entertain This, you're going to find us. Something that I started last week that I'm going to continue to do is I'm going to ask anyone who listens to the show, if you enjoyed our show, please rate us on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. Give us a 4-star review. Just give us a 3-star review, maybe. Don't go lower than 3. We don't deserve that. Come on. Leave us some words. Tell us what you think. That's all I got. Entertain us so we entertain you, and you can entertain this. We'll see you next Friday. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
This episode of Entertain This was written by Michael Savoya, with additional commentary from Nick Mustakangas and Alex Steele. Our showrunner and resident fact-checker is Chloe Price. Our theme music is Rushable by Aaron Spencer, with additional interstitial music by DJW. Tune in every Friday for new episodes, and thanks for listening.